Welcome to the Nerds of Comedy. We are here and we are talking Columbo.
Hell yeah, we are. Columbo at its finest and its craziest. I will go ahead and take this part from you,
Sure.
Mr. Sean Devereaux. We're live. Well, I guess it'll be taped from the Push Comedy Theater as we speak. I challenged Sean on this one, so this is a little surprise episode, and I don't think it's going to rank up on anybody's maybe favorites, although I did enjoy it. I challenged you to watch. The title of this is called The Forgotten Lady.
The Forgotten Lady, yes.
And
Season 5.
Season 5, and I posed a question to him. I said, did Columbo let the killer get away? Did I just watch that? Here we are, Sean. You've watched the episode. I want to know what you think of it.
I'm gonna save my answer. I'm gonna wait till the end till we get to that part.
Okay.
So this is an episode that stars Janet Leigh,
Yep.
who we are both really big fans of.
Huge.
Even bigger fans of her daughter.
Yes, to say that yes, Halloween is my favorite series. As a little boy, I have had a crush on Jamie Lee Curtis my entire life, even up to now. We saw the Oscars when she won. Her thinking Michael Myers was awesome, and we as you said we've talked about this family before on here. We talked about Psycho, right?
We've talked about Psycho. I'm a big fan of her husband, Tony Curtis.
Oh, is that From Here to Eternity, or is he a different guy?
I watch him for a show called The Persuaders.
Okay.
Which was him and Roger Moore. Which
I've seen it on the computer. I've seen you messing around with it, yeah.
So you would love it. That'll be something I'll get you into watching. You can
Deal.
find it on YouTube. I think you would really dig this
Okay.
show. But let's go back to The Forgotten Lady. So Janet Leigh plays an aging actress.
Musical dancer.
Musical
actually,
theater.
yes.
Yes, she's a dancer. She had a dance partner. They were really big, probably back in like the late 50s, early 60s.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
And she's having a bit of a comeback. There is a movie kind of similar to the movie That's Entertainment, which came out in the 70s, which was like a compilation film of all these great musicals from the 30s and 40s and 50s. So a movie like that comes out, and she's heavily featured in it with her dance partner, and they're having a big premiere, and she's there with her dance partner, and she's in her element. She's like a mile a minute. She's almost manic out, like, this is so wonderful.
Oh,
and
she's in her element. You can tell she's charged, and she's gorgeous. Yeah.
Yes. And she says there's going to be a big Broadway revival.
This fall on Broadway, a revival of One Touch of Venus.
This is exciting news. Diamond and Wheeler again?
Well, not me, old friend. My mind's willing, but my legs aren't.
They're going to get these young actors to come in to play her partner, and it's going to be fabulous and wonderful. And her rich husband is going to produce it.
He's going to finance it all.
Yes. Cut to her rich husband, who is a much older gentleman.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this just for 10 seconds. The aging and de-aging in this can be seen, in my opinion, as a little misogynistic.
Yeah.
Having said that, Janet Leigh in this, we think is 48, but we're guessing we think she's supposed to be playing 60. And this man, you said,
He was like 83 or 84.
and he's supposed to be playing...
Like 75, 76.
So this is a little trippy when you see it a little bit, but they do a pretty good job with the makeup. But I didn't think I was convinced with her as much. But how many years difference would that have been?
If they kept it, normally there would have been a 37-year age difference between them, which, again, I guess it was creepy even for the 70s.
Well, yeah, and if you see it, it'll make sense. However, she is extremely physically fit in this, yes.
Oh, yes. So she comes home, and he's like, who's going to pay for all this? And she's like, you are, my darling. And he's like,
I am not investing $500,000 in a Broadway musical, Grace.
Your investment will be safe. It will double, maybe even triple once the play opens.
so she devises this very ingenious murder. So every night she has a screening room at her house where she watches her old movies. The butler comes in and puts on her movie, and she just sits there and watches herself and smokes. Which, again, is sad.
And I'm going to say that you just said, too, is like Columbos are famous, and I don't want to get too lost because we're trying to make these a little shorter, but Columbos are famous for tugging on your heartstrings with weird things because we skipped over the husband knows that she's not really in love with him.
I know you didn't marry me out of love, but our life hasn't been that bad, has it?
But now you go to this thing where she watches her movies by herself, right? This
Yes.
is where you're going to, and which becomes part of the killing. But I'll still say it tugs on your heartstrings for a minute until
she has it set up where she drugs him so he falls asleep. The movie starts. She leaves the house, gets the gun.
Yep.
Comes back in time because the husband leaves his gun in the glove compartment of his car, which is in the garage, which is on the other side of the grounds. She makes it back in time just as the butler is coming to change the reels on the film.
Yep.
So he can see that she's still there watching the movie. And then she goes and she makes it look like a suicide.
Yeah, he had just finished reading a book. He's reading a book next to him.
Yeah, so she takes the book away, puts it down, gets his medical records that shows that he has to have prostate surgery coming up.
That's right.
And puts it down on the bed next to him to make it look like he was depressed by this upcoming surgery. Puts the gun in his hand, pulls the trigger, and then she locks the door to the bedroom, escapes out the window and climbs down a tree and then runs around the house and
Gracefully climbs down it, yes.
gets back into the house and back into the movie theater before the butler can come back to turn off the projector. The butler goes to check on the husband, knocks on the door, no answer, starts banging on the door but can't get in because it's locked, and they finally break it down and they discover he's
The dead man,
dead.
yeah.
And then Columbo shows up
Yes.
in the middle of the night.
We have an interesting one on this. So this is where I must apologize. I was watching this weekend, and I watched it on television. They had a whole Columbo day on one of the channels, right?
Yeah.
And I'm still old, so I watch it that way. Did he show up? Is this the night he shows up in what is he showing up in? Is he normal?
He's normal, but he's very disheveled, like he just threw stuff on.
Okay, is this the one where the butler has the cigar? Because I watched like 15 minutes in a
Yes.
row. Okay, all right, sorry. Okay,
So,
I want to
yes.
get it right in my head. Sorry,
So he's
yes.
smoking all through the house as he's investigating, and the butler is just running behind him with this like ashtray.
Yeah, it's
type
kind of
thing.
like snooty, like, please don't do that, sir.
Yes.
That kind of, that.
So the first thing he comes in, he notices that the book doesn't have a dog-eared page.
Does not have a dog-eared page, yes.
He would say, normally when you put your book down, you just out of habit, if you're a person who dog-ears his books.
You don't
But
stop
this
doing
is a
it.
weak one. This one I thought was a very weak clue.
Well, I think that if I may say though, I disagree with you. May I say why? And we'll talk Columbo forever on this because I think about this episode. What is fun is the Columbo part of it.
Okay, yes.
Right. I think it's a very funny Columbo episode too. Right.
Yes.
Because it deals with a lot of dark matter, especially towards the end. But it leads him to go to the store, to the bookstore.
Where he finds is a very fun, happy
You nailed it.
romp of a book.
So it actually gets him to the mindset more than anything else.
Yes.
In my opinion. I think it's a first stepper. But anyway, I don't know. Does that make sense?
He asked, was he despondent? And the butler and the maid were like, no, he's very happy man. No.
They're not reading any clues this guy was going to kill
Right.
himself.
He's getting ready to go around the world with his, beautiful 37-year younger
Apparently.
wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she is very flighty, but also very concerned because rehearsals are starting for her big Broadway comeback, and that's what she's more.
I wish you would say on the
focus
air
on.
what you had said off the air on this. It's, we own a theater. It was a lot like the people we know
Yeah, I would say.
in the theater. Yeah.
Like I said, she was at times could be very, very manic.
Oh, my God.
And almost annoying, talking about how great she is and like snapping at her dancers
Yes.
and things. And again, we see a lot of that in the theater community around
Yeah.
here. I would have
We're
said
probably part of that. Yeah.
Yes. She's very, how do I put it? She's not very self-aware.
No.
Yes.
No,
Which you
she's
do
stuck,
find.
and she's also stuck back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, she is stuck back in time. So Columbo does some more investigating. He investigates the medical records and is like, well, could he have been depressed about this medical procedure? And the old man's doctor is like, no, it's fairly routine. So
And he's a doctor. He understands the risk. He feels like he felt pretty confident on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the wife keeps on saying he was suicidal, but none of the clues point to that. So that's
Yeah.
when he starts to turn his attention.
There's only 3 people in the building, and there's only one person to have gained anything from that. And
Exactly.
That would be Janet Leigh. Yeah.
Now, this is one thing that I noticed about her. He kept on asking her questions like, well, then who could have killed him? And she
Yeah.
would start pontificating about what could have possibly happened. And I'm there at home. I'm like, shut up, lady. Just shut up.
Yes, yes.
Every time you open your mouth, you're digging. He does that a lot throughout the series where the killer starts
Opening up.
trying to help Columbo throw, Columbo off the scent. But every time they do it, it just shines a brighter light on them.
It's going to this is like before Poker Face, which we've referenced a few times in here, where she has the ability, obviously, to not be lied to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Columbo's the same way.
Yeah, he has.
They didn't call it out. This is where Columbo will always be just a touch cooler, but I think they would agree with that.
He doesn't have that bullshit.
Yeah, he just knows.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to talk about it. Yeah, he doesn't have that bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, though, I think that's also showing how she's losing it.
She is. She can't remember his name.
Columbo.
7, 8. Yeah. That name is very unusual. I don't for the life of me know why I can't remember it.
Even there's a moment where she snaps on the dancer for getting a move wrong, but it was actually she was the one.
No, she's too slow.
Yeah, so she is starting to lose it.
Oh, yeah. And this old dancer that has been, in a drink and driving accident and stuff like that. Is that
Her
right?
former dance partner, whose partner is now the director.
I love
of the
these
show.
70s damn things. But anyway, they're kind of more realistic. Like, people don't tell that. You don't write that on Facebook. It's like, well, Roger had a DUI, I ruined his career. But we moved on.
We have, yes. So another great thing about this episode, what I did like and what you love, is there is a subplot to this episode. The subplot of Columbo getting his firearm certification.
Yes. 5 times I counted.
Yes.
We did it to it 5 times.
First one, a woman shows up, a police sergeant shows up, or lieutenant shows up, and tells him that it's been 5 years since he's certified for his weapon. And he's like, no, that can't be. Your computer's wrong. And she's like, well, can I, see your badge so I can get the information? And she even says, that the picture is 10 years old.
All of the stuff, even the picture that she has in her folder of them, every picture they have is, if I'm correct in this, I think it's the same picture.
Yeah.
It's from 10 years ago, 12, or whatever it is.
Which I think, I'd have to look at the date, but probably pretty close because Prescription Murder was 68 or 69.
Okay.
So it might not have been 10, but it was probably a good 7 years since the very first Columbo. Because he even says, my hair is a lot longer and shaggier now. Because he did have that super short, tight haircut in that very first Prescription Murder.
Oh, yeah. This episode is great if you like Columbo, right? This is a really good Columbo, funny one.
So again,
you got to come in there.
They just send officer after him to get him to go.
People are sitting in his car,
waiting for him. Yes.
He has one that, if I'm correct on that, is the most hilarious one is, what does Columbo do in his free time? He takes Dog, which I think the dog is named Dog.
Yes.
He takes Dog to the ice cream shop, or to an ice cream car,
and he gets ice cream for him
and the dog.
He's
just letting the dog have it while he eats his, and Internal Affairs finally is like, hey, the gig's up.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be giving us your badge. And
he ends up bribing another friend on the police force to go and take his test for him. He actually gives the guy his badge.
Well, and remember what he tells him, too. It hadn't been 5 years, Columbo.
No, it's been 10 years.
The readout said you hadn't fired in 5 years. She double-checked it. It was 10.
Gee, you gotta be kidding.
10 years. He hasn't done anything in 10 years to certify himself with a gun.
Yeah, and he says, well, can I see your gun? He's like, oh, I don't have it.
You could be suspended.
But I don't have a gun.
What do you mean?
It's downtown.
You could get busted for that, too.
Oh, and I did, we'll tell you that, too, the quote of this, and I may fumble this a little bit, but when the first woman comes in, she goes,
I'm in the homicide office at least once a week. I don't think I've ever seen you there.
Well, I don't get down there too much. None of the murders take place there, you know.
That's his job.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, we find out that he doesn't really go to work.
No, it's almost like he hangs out with his dog until somebody dies and they call him. Because he's always showed up in the middle of the night or something like that, yeah.
And his wife makes him dinners. He's kind of just this reckless that just comes into everybody's life.
He just hangs out until, somebody drops dead, and then they call him up the phone, and he shows up. So anyway, let's go back to Janet Leigh.
Yeah.
So through his investigation, he realizes that she's the one who killed her husband. Her husband he takes a sleeping pill every night, but he had twice the amount of dosage in him.
The slippers didn't have anything from going outside, so it
get his gun.
outruled the suicide. Yeah. He's old enough to have not been able to make the trip down the tree.
Yes, and she's like a trained dancer, so she could have easily done it. And then he finds, going through her husband's medical records, he finds her medical record. And it shows that she has an aneurysm, which is causing her to forget things and misremember things, and that she has at most 2 months to live.
It's basically like 1 week to 2 months. Like,
Yes.
it's one of those kind of movies, too, where this is the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Right. At the very end, is when
of the telemovie, yeah.
Yeah. And so he is telling this to her dance partner, who has, been a champion by Janet Leigh's side throughout the entire episode, probably throughout her entire life. Because, again, they were dance partners in the 50s.
Yep.
They're still close now. He's
still in love with her.
Madly in love with her, but she married this old man for his money.
She did.
But Columbo lays out the evidence, and he tries to refute it, but Columbo has an answer.
If you're a Columbo dork like I am, it's an interesting way to do the wrap up. You know, how every one of them has it, and everybody get in here kind of moment, like all the killers are here, I'll show you how he did it. He's not doing it to the killer in this one, he's doing it to the killer's
Best
dance
friend,
lover.
Best friend, yeah, exactly. He lays her all out, and he's getting ready to go in and arrest her. And Janet Leigh's dance partner / lover, or unrequited lover, says, I did it.
He takes blame for the killing that he did not do.
Right.
And that Columbo has proven to him how Janet Leigh did it, and he's done it convincingly.
I killed Henry. I took the gun out of the glove compartment. I came through a rear window. I went up to his room and I shot him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Columbo says,
It's not going to take much to break your story.
It might take a couple of months.
and Columbo, he takes a pause, and you can see him think for a second, and he goes, you know what? It just might.
Right.
So Columbo is willing to go along with this deception.
Yeah.
Because
Janet Leigh doesn't, they believe that Janet Leigh doesn't even remember killing her husband.
right, her mind is starting to go so quickly.
Yeah.
But I don't believe any of that. So this is why I think she's actually more cold and calculating.
Ooh, I like this. You've awakened me. Yeah.
Yes. Because they paint her as being very sympathetic. She gets, as it goes on, she does get more and more flighty and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But she makes this at this premiere, she makes this big announcement. I'm making my comeback, and my husband is going to pay for everything.
Yep.
She gets in the car, the butler drives her home, and she's all like, this is so great. You know, this is going to be wonderful. She immediately gets home, goes into the kitchen, and gets the extra sleeping tablet. Before she's even gone to her husband, and he can tell her, he can tell her no. She's already planned on killing him, regardless of what, or has this as a backup. So she's already thought this murder out.
Oh, completely. It's so got like how she's going to do it, what time
the
to give herself an
timing and
alibi.
like that. Yes.
She is, without a doubt, it is the most premeditated murder. It is premeditated murder. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. So she is ready to go.
Murder
So
in the first. Yeah.
If he says yes, I will fund it. Great. If he says no, I am ready. He is going to die tonight.
This is going to end your life. Yeah.
Yeah. She's been thinking about this for a while.
Well, she's definitely delusional. She's a really, Janet Leigh, again, this family never disappoints me. I could probably watch her, eat duct tape. I'm a little high. But anyway, I would still say to you, she's really good. She gives a great performance. I would agree. It's not a high on my list as my favorite stories, but I need the answer right now. Did he let her get away with it?
I would say yes.
Was it a gentleman thing to do?
I think it was a gentleman thing to do. I think because he did talk about how like this is like one of his wife's favorite actresses.
But that doctor's dead.
He is dead, and her name is going to be dragged through the mud.
I know. Yeah.
But it'll be after she's died. So he's giving her the dignity to live out her last 2 months thinking that she's still going to be a big Broadway
It
hit.
ends with her up there like watching the movies again.
Yeah, and the last scene is her just watching herself.
One thing that's interesting that if you haven't noticed in this, I just got sympathetic. I'm like, yeah, I know they're gonna ruin her name. Meanwhile, she's a cold-blooded killer.
Yeah.
And that you a little while ago were like, please don't say anymore. I think it shows what kind of acting job she did. She kind of makes you root for her.
She does.
Yeah, she's a really good actress.
You can tell she's a great actress. Like I said, her
Yeah.
character was kind of annoying, and you can definitely see her unraveling more and
Yeah.
more and more as the episode goes along.
And you
But-
can see Columbo having fun. He's up in a tree in this, y'all. He's in a tree in this and falls out of a tree almost onto his dog. Some of the funny, I don't know if I've laughed that loud when he's like, get away from here. I'm going to fall on you.
Yeah, it's great.
The Columbo-ness of
hanging
this.
from that tree for a while. Like she sees him, and, like runs outside just as he's falling. Yeah,
You can see it. There's a great shot of him out the window, and the whole party's there. Columbo, fun episode, not high on my list. Where do you put this murder? Does this murder make your top 10?
no,
Does not.
no. I think as much as I love all the things with the gun and stuff like that, the pacing on this was kind of slow.
I'd have to agree on that.
And I think this is, they said, one of the longer movies. This was like actual 2 hours as opposed to 90 minutes.
Right.
What have you. I think they even have a quote from one of the producers of the book that they definitely kind of stretched it to fit the time slot.
They do that in another one coming up that I'll watch because we're going to be very excited to see from y'all. We are going to be coming out with a little bit of the top 10 murderers.
Top 10 best murders.
I cannot wait for this. We're also going to do, I think, I will say on this one, as far as ranking, where this will go up, I want to do one because I want to dork out about this forever, about top 10 Columbo moments where you kind of get to know Columbo and his world. I might put this one in it.
Yeah, the
I
gun thing is
really
great. It's
enjoyed
huge.
the Columbo story in this. I will tell you, and I'm a huge Peter Falk fan, and it looked like he was having fun acting with this actress.
Right.
Yeah, and I just have such a crush on that old school actors. They're
get
great.
it.
They're great.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for The Forgotten Lady. Not one of my favorites, but still very enjoyable. Like I said, we're going to have a lot more Columbo heading your way. So please like the channel, subscribe, and tell us which episodes you would like us to talk about it.
Absolutely. I love Columbo. Just one more thing. Subscribe.